I'm Grace, and I'm in recovery, and I consider my sobriety date from everything except for cigarettes and nicotine as April 1st, 1994. I didn't learn that I had autism until 2017, at which point I had been sober 23 years. And I looked back over my time, because I think that's what old people do, and I realized that invariably the struggles that I had in my recovery were not what I thought they were. They weren't from what people said they were. They weren't about God. They weren't about spirituality. They weren't about recovery. They weren't about politics or philosophy or social spaces or following the rules or the traditions. They were about my autism. The problem that I've seen is that recovery is usually framed, traditionally, in the sense that two people can identify the problem and work together to a common solution. The bizarre part of that is that recovery, in my experience, is a completely individual thing. So the further I got into my authenticity, the more I got into my authenticity, the further I got from this shared language system. And being autistic, I don't process inside the shared language system. I don't think in data. I think in rhythm and pattern and music, and I call it transcontextual consciousness. But basically, it lets me learn things by function rather than by the data, because it was faster. It was automatic when I was a kid. I found that I could listen inside a math proof and just know. I could hear like a bell if it was right or not. And I'm not saying it was perfect. I'm just saying that this method worked better than anything the teacher or the book was saying. And it saved so much time on homework. When I got into recovery, I found one of the things people say is that it's a we program. And I get why a person does that, because there's a sense of safety in discovering the unknown when I feel connection with another human being. The problem is that I don't know anyone who has the experiences I have. Traditional language is built on shared experiences. That's its nature. So I don't know anyone who experiences what I experience. So any language that is already established cannot involve what I experience. It's not anybody's fault. It's just a fact. The problem is when you violate someone else's language system without meaning to, they will get reactive. And I've seen it happen. There's been a sort of fascism about only not bringing topics up like drugs in an AA meeting. I imagined, and I actually tried for a while to develop an AA meeting based solely on the third tradition, which is, in AA, is the only requirement for membership is the desire to stop drinking. And if I analyze that in terms of codependence, desire is one of my feelings. And if I'm not codependent, then someone else's feelings is none of my business. So if their membership is based on their desire and their feelings are none of my business, their relationship with recovery is none of my business. So deciding what someone else talks about in the rooms is a demonstration of social control, not anything about the traditions. And that is absolutely clear. And I don't put up with argument about it, because it's always like a language game. It's not real. So part of being autistic is to live outside the shared context with people whose sense of personal safety seems to rely on the shared context. So it's really weird, questioning their relationship with how they speak and taking exception and saying, I'm not automatically merged into the group morph thing, can be taken as hostility. And it's been received that way. If I disagreed about spirituality, well, there's a problem about something. If I disagree about the problem of addiction and recovery, then I'm having animosity or I'm being resistant. No, the only way that we can have a shared perspective on what the problem is or anything is if we are both able to participate in that form of language. If you're not, you're not. So for a long time, I framed myself in terms of my failure to participate in the social language system, and then I viewed the quality of my sobriety relative to how well I expressed it in the social language system. There are some things, some ingredients that can be added to a process that are indispensable. And one of those difficult recovery problems that I had to face is that I could not dispense with my individuality as an autistic person from my recovery. I could decide that I wished it were otherwise. I could decide that I wished I could translate my autism into neurotypical language. And it didn't work, and I could go by the results. There are certain ways that don't work, and they don't work because they just feel icky. And once I started realizing that, I realized that I may not have an understanding for my difference, but I had a responsibility to take care of myself in terms of the pain that I felt in starting anywhere else. And I could wish with everything in me that I could get along better with neurotypical people and build their language. And at the end of the day, every time I tried to do that, and I could look back in my own history, when I tried to do that, the result was something that felt like an ongoing violation. That was more of a threat to my recovery than anything else, because I doubted my reason for recovering. Like, I'd get so lost in whether or not I could frame it in the way other people did, that would generate a kind of stress that was the foundational stress of my life. I needed to become a person, and the inability to do that was part of what drove my using behavior. So it's sort of strange.